Ha?
Susi ko ako ng shade.
Huwag na. Papasok naman na sa mga.
May lakad-lakad yata sa labas eh. May lakad-lakad yata sa labas.
Hello, Dasha. Hello, Dasha.
Okay, let's go, come on. Hindi na. Are you sure? It's spinning. Oh my God, Superman. Superman.
Kasi I want to
Ay,
do
pero
carry.
ano, gusto ko yung cup mo.
Nandun.
Parang na. Nakangiti lang sa akin. Why you're laughing? Yeah.
Barilis. See you. Wow. Later.
Picture ko sila.
Okay. Nasa ka man. Nasa? Show to Tito Ken. Nasa? 3, 2, 1. Show that to will be the last. All right.
How about you? All right. 1, 2, 3, whiskey. All right, thank you. How many?
2.
You gotta stand on that mat. I'll be there.
Nasa 1, 2, 3. Please.
All right, 1, 2, 3, whiskey. That was great. How many? 4. Okay. Thank you. Y'all stand on the mat. All the way back. Alright, so as the tour started, I do have a couple safety rules to go over. I already mentioned that we need to stay together. We're on the grounds of a working distillery. They don't want anyone to go anywhere dangerous or get in anyone's way or anything like that. And our facility here is tobacco free. That's going to include e-cigarettes and smokeless tobacco as well. And I'm going to go ahead and ask you guys to put your cell phones down, either off or on vibrate. That way there aren't ringtones or notification noises going off the whole tour. And while we're on the tour, you guys can take photos anywhere outside and indoor sun building. But once we go in the production areas, we are not allowed to use any electronics at all. It's not because of secrets or anything, but the fire marshals have advised against it. They're afraid that one day a stray spark is sending all of us to meet Jack in person. I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to do that today. Now, have any of you ever toured our distillery before? Okay, a couple of you. They liked it enough to come back, so hopefully that says something good for everybody else. You guys are in the right spot. Every single drop of Jack Daniel's whiskey that's being sold anywhere in the world is all made right here in our tiny little dry county. We went dry during the Prohibition. They've kept it that way. There's no liquor stores or anything like that here in town. We do have some special rules and permissions though, since the whole distillery sits here. So we are allowed to sell the whiskey on the grounds where we make it. The bottle shop in the visitor center, that's the only place we sell our whiskey here in town. And 2012, that's when we finally started the educational tasting tours for you guys. We started giving our regular tours back in the 60s, but it wasn't until 2012 when they finally allowed us to add on a tasting. So we've come a long way since then. If you took one of our tours before 2012, you would have to listen to us talk about whiskey all day. And then at the very end, you got a little bit of plain lemonade. I definitely think they've upgraded it since then. And there is a perk for our employees as well. The first Friday of every month, each Jack Daniel employee gets to take home a bottle of Old Number 7. We call that Good Friday. That's a perfect attendance day for us. No one's getting mad about taking home free whiskey. I'm just saying. Now, as we come up this hill, we're going to get a really good look at one of our barrel houses. Depending on which way you guys drove into town today, you could have passed some of these already. We actually have 97 barrel houses scattered across our 3,000 acres. Now, this one up here is one of the older ones. It's from the 1950s. It's 7 stories tall, and it holds around 20,000 barrels of whiskey.
That's it?
So this one building here is holding a little more than 1 million gallons of our whiskey for us. So we do have tons of whiskey in a tiny little dry county, and I'll talk a little more about a barrel house later on. But for now, we are getting ready to hop off the bus to get the tour started. So just make sure you have all your belongings with you, and remember to watch your step on the stairs. And I do see some yellow wristbands. I'm not going to make you guys wait much longer. The slushies are at the first stop. If anyone's changed their mind, you can buy one down here. It's Jack and Coke or lemonade with the Tennessee Blackberry inside. They'll also have bottles of water for just $2 if someone needs one of those as well.
Alright,
Alright, here we go. Thank you, sir.
Okay, gonna hold.
Okay, okay.
Okay. Asha, can I hold you? Come on. Okay, Dash.
Alright, everybody's on the bus. We're going to start walking.
How long have you worked here, Courtney?
About a year and a half. Yeah.
I mean, aside from good friends.
I definitely prefer it.
Ay, ano ba? Saan na yun?
So our first official
Ang
stop will
daming
be right
ano.
over there. I'll tell you guys about how we make our own charcoal and what we use it for. But right before that, we will stop at this little truck here. That's where they got the slushies.
Sorry naman, hindi ko alam.
Ganito pala yung tour. Hindi rin na kasi namin na-try yung ano, Budweiser.
Yeah, I know.
Yung sun, yellow bun. Gusto mo i-try? Picture ka dyan.
Take card and cash.
Kasi nasara ko lagi.
So
Ito yung
this is
ugin.
the brickyard. This is where we make all of our own charcoal that we use for our process called charcoal mellowing. Charcoal mellowing is when we slowly drip the whiskey through charcoal as a filter. It's going to remove the fatty acid, the corn oils, and the bitterness from the grain from our whiskey. They've been using this process since way back in Jack's day. They just called it a different name back then. Back then, they called this the Lincoln County process. Lincoln County, one of our neighboring counties. At one point, all of this was a part of Lincoln County, and there were actually over a dozen distillers in the area that all used charcoal to filter their whiskey. So a lot of people, they still know it by that name. They'll still call it that. But I usually tell my groups, I do tons of talking all day. Charcoal mellowing is easier to say. So that's what I'm going to call it the rest of the tour. But when these guys are ready to make the charcoal, they're going to take any of these stacks around here of sugar maple wood that we call ricks, 4 at a time. They're placed underneath one of these two hoods, just like they are on the right-hand side. Then they burn that down to make the charcoal. And they don't do this every single day. They only make charcoal when we need to replace some, so maybe 3 or 4 days a week. And each of the burns only lasts about an hour and a half. So it is pretty rare to actually catch one while we're out here. Plus, it's kind of warm today. I don't think we want to be standing this close to a fire right now. One of those going, the hottest point is about 2,000 degrees. So it does get pretty warm and toasty over here. Back in Jack's day, they would just burn these in the open air, but we do have them underneath the fence now. That's going to pull a lot of the heat and smoke out of the area, make it a little more bearable for the workers' nose, but it does still get pretty hot. So we'll come right over here, watch a little time-lapse video one night. So when you start a fire, you need to use some kind of accelerant. We make plenty of one. We're going to use our own 140 proof, 70% alcohol that comes straight off the stills to start all these fires. There is a good reason for that. If we were to use anything else, it would add a foreign taste or smell to the whiskey when it got filtered through the charcoal later. So we're only going to use our own whiskey and water on these fires. And as that fire burns, you're going to see the wood collapse down on itself. Then the guys that work over here, they have to come in at the right timing and add the right amount of water to get charcoal. And that can be pretty precise. If they come in too soon with too much water, that's wet, unburned wood. And if they come in too late with too little water, that would give us ashes. And neither of those would do us any good for our whiskey. But lucky for us, the two guys you'll see at the end of the video, they're also in most of these photos here. That's Darren and Tracy. They've been doing this job for about 25 years now. So at this point, it's pretty much just second nature to them. And when the charcoal's first ready, these pieces are not going to be uniform at all. They're going to vary quite a bit in shape and size. So we can't really pack them together to make a good filter right away. First thing they'll do with the charcoal, take it right next door. That building has a large machine inside that's going to grind it all up for us. Once it's about pea or pellet sized pieces, that's when we actually pack that down and use it to filter the whiskey. And we will see the full scale, what we call mellowing vats, later in the tour. But for now, there is a small scale one right here. The ones we see later are in production, so we won't be allowed to take photos. So if you guys want a photo of this one, go right ahead. And as for the charcoal itself, when it's no longer filtered properly, they don't just want to waste it. So it actually gets taken out, dried, packaged, and sold as some of our Jack Daniel's grilling products in the back corner there. And a lot of the other ones are actually made out of chips from the used barrels. So they do try to reuse anything they can. And before we head out, I do want to stress how important this charcoal mellowing process is. This is what separates us from a bourbon and makes us a Tennessee whiskey. So if anyone ever asks you the difference between bourbon and Tennessee whiskey, simple, short answer is charcoal. And before we head out, right here I have some of the fire accelerant these guys use. They like to call it whiskey for destruction. For everyone but the kiddos, I can spray some of this on your hands. You can really feel the oils from the corn and you can smell the bitterness from the grain because this is straight off the stills and has not been through charcoal yet. And you guys are adults. I cannot add this to your slushies. I can't spray it in your mouth either. But if you choose to lick your hands, that's your business, not mine. You won't be the first, you're not going to be the last. I don't respect it.
Let's try it.
At this point, yes. I already had one person say yum.
Thank you. Oh yeah. Sarap. Sarap nga. Sarap. Ang sarap.
Sarap, man. Straight from the...
Greasy, but then yeah, I'm thinking alcohol does dry.
Ito pala.
Yeah.
Mais.
Mais.
May wheat. Rye.
And
Malt.
because it has those
Malt.
corn oils in it, it actually leaves your hands pretty soft. Now, for those of you with the slushies, I know we just grabbed them, but we do only have a couple more stops with them. Once we get down to Jack's office, that's a historical site, and we're just not allowed to take sugary drinks inside. So just keep that in mind while you're sipping on it. The sun should help you out a little bit. And as we're walking this way, stay close to the right-hand side of the road in case anybody needs to drive through over here.
Kasi pag New Year, minum kami lang pamakin ko sa yung glass. Ganito yung Jack, ganyan yung Coke. So,
Bagay po talaga sila.
yeah, so, konti lang.
Konting. Yan to. Ba't ka nagpagkat?
Salamat naman. Alam na maglalakad pala ka lang. Kaya akala ka sa passport. Parang sa Disneyland ba?
They're exactly what you would imagine modern ones to look like, but we did add our own twist. So those are black and gold Jack Daniels branded engines. It's a good thing we don't see them on the floor because they only really come out when they have stuff. We've been lucky enough to not lose any whiskey to a fire or Jack, so we want to keep that record going for as long as we possibly can. And our next stop is actually my favorite stop. We're going to go back to the cave spring. We're going to see the water source for the whiskey, and I'll talk a little more history once we get over there. Distillery was just in this small area of land right here from this
cellphone.
Mas malayo. Kung makita yung ano. Kasi nakuha na yung alapitan. Saan ka ulit? Kayo muna. Ay, hindi ako sa ano. Okay na muna. Yung may tubig.
So back to our visitor center, you probably saw that white marble statue of Jack. It used to stand right out here before. Well, we brought that one inside to preserve it because it's from 1941. So in the year 2000, we had the bronze one made. Bronze can withstand a lot more weather. And when the sculptor made this statue of Jack, he decided to make it a little larger than life. He said to match Jack's personality. So the statue itself is about 5'7", 5'8". Jack, he was actually 5'2". So if he was standing next to his own statue here, he'd come up to about the bottom of the mustache there. But oddly enough, the shoe size is pretty spot on. Jack was wearing a size 4 men's shoe. That is a 6 women's. Most of the time, he had a pretty big heel on his size, a pretty tall hat on his head. I don't think most people realize exactly how tall Jack is. And they like to say he has his hat on, goes drinking whiskey like he once was. But everyone else just says the real reason is because Jack here was a lifelong bachelor. They like to say the statue is trying to catch the eye of all the ladies taking our tours. And when they put the statue out here, they put it on some of the rocks from the cave. So I don't think they can resist calling it Jack on the Rocks. I usually tell people this is the only free shot of Jack on the Rocks you're going to get from me. So take advantage of it. So feel free to take photos here. You can step up on the rocks next to him if you'd like. Just watch your step and don't fall.
Jack on the
Once you guys
rocks.
are done with your
Picture mo si tita. Does she want Jack on the rocks?
Good, good ka.
Does she go?
Nakamin naman kita. Let's go to the center.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
The area across from me over there, that used to be the back porch, so we did close that and it's right there. But these other two rooms, that's the original size of the office. And there are several photos of Jack in here. The large one across from me is the easiest to see. Jack's real name was Jasper Newton Daniel. Jack, that's just a nickname he liked to be called. And right above the desk over here, this is a photo of a man named Lim Montlow. He's one of Jack's many nephews. He started working here when he was around age 17. He was great with numbers. He became the bookkeeper. He was also the one that came into work early every morning. He would set up and unlock everything here in the office before his Uncle Jack would come in for the day. But Jack here, he was in a bit of a hurry one morning. Stories say he was about to go out of town. He just needed to grab something important out of the office. So he decided to come into work early. Got here before noon, so nothing was set up or unlocked like he was used to. What Jack needed was in that safe right over there. And this is Jack's original safe. Now, for whatever reason, he could not get his own safe open that morning. That made him so frustrated, he reared back and kicked it as hard as he could. That broke his big toe. I don't know if he realized it was broken at first or not. He eventually got what he needed out of the safe, went on with his day. But as time went by, that foot did start getting worse instead of any better. But Jack, he was kind of known to be a stubborn man. He just bought a cane and continued to walk around on that foot. By the time he finally went to a doctor, he had waited so long that gangrene had set in. So they actually had to amputate his toe, his foot, and they did more amputations over the years as it spread. They eventually made it all the way up to his hip, just trying to save Jack's life. But in 1911, when he was around age 61, Jack did end up dying due to complications from kicking that same right hand. Growing up here in town, they always told us that the moral of that story is coming to work early can kill you. We all avoid that. You guys all should too if you don't already. Just saying. And I did tell you that Jack was a bachelor, but he also never had any children. So when he died, the distillery was left to his nephew. Lynn was already doing quite a bit in the office, so it made sense, but the timing itself was not great. Prohibition had already started here in Tennessee. We decided to start it early in 1909, so Jack did see the beginning of it before he passed. But Lim, he's the one that kind of had to get us through the Prohibition. Where the brickyard is, he ran a sawmill. He used some of the machines here to make flowers. He even opened a hardware and general store on the town square where he sold just about anything. Started trading mules too. He just wanted to keep money flowing and providing for their family. He also wanted to make sure that that water source stayed right here in the family because he did believe they would eventually need it to make whiskey again. And as we all know, he was right. We did eventually make whiskey here again, but that was a long 29 years later when they were finally able to do that.
Wow.
So we do thank him for getting us through that long prohibition, or our distillery might not have survived it. In his honor, we do still have the hardware and general store on the town square, but today they use the inside for the official gift shop. And Lim, he died in 1947. He left the distillery to his 4 sons here. We just call them the Motlow brothers. These brothers took care of the distillery until 1956. That's when they ultimately decided to sell to a corporation out of Louisville, Kentucky called Brown-Forman. Brown-Forman is still our parent company to this day. Several companies were all putting in bids trying to buy the distillery at the time, but Brown-Forman agreed to keep the traditions and keep doing everything Jack's way. So that's why the brothers chose them over any of the other companies, even though they were the lowest bidder at the time. They just wanted to keep things running the way their family had. And after we leave this office, our next stop will actually be over in production, and I'll tell you about making the whiskey and things. But I will exit out the back of the office here, that way you guys can check out these other rooms on your way out. And maybe don't kick the safe. Excuse me, pardon me. distillery here in the United States. Jack was the first person to register his distillery back in 1866. He hopped on a train, went right up to DC, and made sure to register that distillery. And I tell people, you have to really like making whiskey if you're going to volunteer to be the first person to pay taxes. And Jack was out, he was somewhere around age 16. Okay. This property here.
Can you imagine when they were in Hawaii? He was a tourist guide.
Sino?
Uncle.
Ah, si...
Yeah, when they retired, they were in Hawaii. That's his job. Tour guide.
Lola Pedro?
Yeah.
That's me. Sorry.
It was time for
Well, anything that touches the air we don't use, this is extra water, but so this video is playing on loop. It's just going to show you how they make the barrels. The barrels are made out of American white oak, and a lot of people are going to tell you the barrel is the most important ingredient. And it is considered an ingredient. The barrel is going to give the whiskey 100% of its color and about 70% of the flavor. So they are doing a lot for us. Now, when these guys are putting together the barrels, it's kind of like piecing together a big puzzle. They're made up of pieces like this called staves, and they're never really cut evenly. Some will be a little wider than another. So there's not a set number of these to make up a barrel. One could have 23, one could have closer to 30. And after they get them put together, we're going to toast and char the barrels. Toasting them is kind of like heating them up in a big oven. The first one on the far left there has only been toasted. That's going to take the natural sugars in the oak and caramelize them. And then this is the charring process. This is called the char tunnel. They put a fire inside the barrels for just a couple seconds, then they put it right back out. They don't want the whole barrel to go up in flames. And the second one over there, that's right after the char. That's going to take those sugars and caramelize them. It's going to give the whiskey more flavor to pull from. And it's also going to give it the color when it starts to work with that wood. And then the last one there, that's just after it's had the whiskey inside. So I am going to tell you guys about how the barrel is actually giving whiskey its color and flavor. So this is a stave from one of our used barrels. About halfway through here, there's a darker line. Can you guys on the back see okay? So this darker line, that's what we call the soak line. This is how far the whiskey will actually go into the wood while it's maturing inside the barrel. So the barrel houses, like we saw on the bus, they're not climate controlled. They're going to be changing with the weather outside. So when it's warm outside, the pores in the wood open up, much like pores of our skin do, and the whiskey goes right inside these open pores. When it's cold, those pores close back up. That's going to push the whiskey back into the barrel. Every time the whiskey gets pushed out of the oak, it's pulling some of that color and flavor out with it. And this back and forth will happen constantly the whole time the whiskey's inside. Most of our whiskeys are maturing in a barrel for anywhere between 4 and 7 years. That's a lot of climate change, a lot of back and forth to give it the color and the flavor. And we do have a couple specialty releases that will be in the barrel even longer than that. And as for the barrels themselves, they are single use. So I usually tell people, imagine they're going to make yourself some tea. After you make the first cup, you could use the tea bag again. But the color, the flavor, it's not going to be the same. So for the same reason, we're only using each barrel once. After we use them, most of them are going to Scotland and Ireland for Scotch and Irish whiskeys, but they are being sent all over for different rums, wines, tequilas, even Tabasco sauce goes in our barrels when we're done with it. So they have plenty of uses once they leave us here. And at the Hard Ranger store on the square, that's where they turn these there's tons of things they can use those for. But for the whiskey itself, once it's done in the barrel, we bottle. Most of that bottling is taking place 2 miles up the road. That's where the large 24/7 bottling facility is. But right over here, we're carrying the smallest and oldest bottling line running. We still use it today for all of the specialty releases and the single barrel products. So after you walk through, we can get a good look at what these guys are doing. You can take some photos if you'd like. And once we leave this room, or this building, I should say, we'll be heading right on over to your tasting room. Excuse me, sir.
Sorry, excuse me.
Yeah. Pretty good.
I'm gonna take a picture first.
Yan, punta kami.
Kay na to. Ha?
Ano?
O, tulog tita.
One, two, three. Ayan. May nandito alak eh. Hindi naman.
Alright.
Wait lang.
Ang dami. Mas tiga 100 yung isang ano, 200. Yung mga pinakamagandang ano.
The other two.
Thank you. There's 46.
As you come out, stay close to the side of the road.
Pagod ang bata. Or is it nap time?
Nap time. Ngayon lang.
Ngayon. Tapos na kayo nap time.
So that bottling line is pretty hands-on. We saw them do things like add labels by hand and things like that. They do have some small lines like this in the big facility, But for instance, when we're bottling old number 7, since that's most of what we sell, that line is going to be a lot more often. But even though they're doing a lot by hand, these guys can still bottle about 40 bottles per minute. So I think they're doing a pretty good job over here. We'll let Terry go by.
Employee along with the bloodline. Charcoals, and then the barrel. No. From the screen.
Iba na yung pambata dito. Kaya kami naisip ko lang tourist destination. So,
Park. Pero okay lang din po. You know. Barrel house.
Kasi may kurubin siya.
Ha?
May kurubin.
Siya yan. Sabi niya kanina. Sarap siguro nindot din ng tubig. Naggawa na nga rin ako ng buwan ko lang inumin. Yep.
You want to hold the door? Hold the door.
Thank you. Wow, ayan na. Okay, I love it. Wala naman dito. Nakon.
Yes.
1 minute chicken.
Parang yung cinnamon ano, nasa ilong ko pa.
Ooh.
Gusto mo yun?
Ooh.
Ayaw niya ng cinnamon na ano.
Yeah, you don't like it. That's like, when I make carrot cake, that was kind of favorite.
Yung cinnamon po ginagawa niyang ano.
Patpuri. Patpari. Nagising talaga sa pagkakatulog. Ayun, sasabihin ko.
What?
Ang pangit lang ng ano. Kaya ano. Kaya umaga.
I kind of wish they had the honey and lilies in there.
Yeah.
The cinnamon stuff's so strong. All right, so the White House that was in front of our tasting rooms, that's a replica of Mr. Lim Motlow's house. They built it about 8 or so years ago. And Lim and his crew built this barrel house right here in 1938. So this is the one we used after the Prohibition. Lim wanted it right here in his backyard to keep a good eye on his whiskey. And in 2021, we dedicated it to George Green, Mary's son. And we do have a list of all the Green family descendants that have worked here over the years. Some of the names in the bottom, they're still working. Once we head inside, we're going to smell what's called the angel share. That's some of the whiskey that naturally seeps out of the barrels while it's in here maturing and the wood expands and contracts. Way back when, they didn't really understand why they were losing whiskey here. They chose to believe that angels were reaching in and taking their whiskey out. So that's how it got its name, but we're actually going to lose anywhere from 10 all the way up to 30% of what we put in the barrel for that angel share. So I tell people they're taking a lot more than their fair share of it. Once we go inside, this is another area we're just not allowed to use the electronics.
Thank you. Siya lakay. Mm.